Welcome to this Candidates Forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TCTV. I'm Nancy Scott from the League, and I'll be moderating this segment of Candidates Forums. We're going to be meeting the two candidates for Thurston County Sheriff. We have Debbie Mealy, and John Snaza.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the active and informed involvement of citizens in government. One of our main purposes is to educate the public about the main issues in the different races and the candidates' positions on those issues. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement, then we have some questions prepared by the League, and they'll be responding to those questions. So we'll begin with John, if you could give your opening statement to the voters.
Thank you, Nancy. My name is John Snaza. I've lived in Thurston County my entire life. I've been serving in law enforcement my entire adult life. I actually started in law enforcement right after getting out of the Navy and serving in Desert Storm. I've been a reserve officer, a tribal officer, a small town employee officer, a city police officer, and also a Thurston County officer. I've been able to serve in many capacities in law enforcement, ranging from patrol officer to SWAT team commander, which I currently hold right now. I'm running on a ticket as a nonpartisan because I believe the sheriff's office should be nonpartisan. Just like our judges are able to make independent decisions, so should our sheriffs. So having the backing from both Republican retired Sheriff Gary Edwards, who served for 20 years, and current Sheriff Dan Kimball, who has served for 4 years not only as our sheriff, but in 25 years of law enforcement. Combined, they have 50+ years of law enforcement. And they both agree that the sheriff's office should be a nonpartisan position. So having their endorsements and being able to hopefully do what they haven't been able to is to make the sheriff's office a nonpartisan position. And that's why I'm running for Thurston County Sheriff. Thank you.
Okay. Debbie, your opening statement for the voters.
Hi, my name is Debbie Mealy. I'm running for Thurston County Sheriff. I've been an employee with the Sheriff's Office for the last 15 years. I started off as a patrol deputy, working patrol in South County, Rochester, Grand Mound, Tenino. And then after a few years as a deputy on the road, I moved into the DARE program where I had the privilege of teaching our youth in the schools good decision making. I was then promoted to sergeant and went back to the road as a supervisor, as a patrol supervisor for the next 4 years before I was in charge of our training division for the Sheriff's Department. I was then promoted to lieutenant and transferred up to the Criminal Justice Training Commission, where I am currently on loan with the Training Commission. Training Commission is where we train all of our police officers in the state of Washington. I've been there for almost 3 years and have held a multitude of positions, but I'm currently the deputy director in charge of the agency. I run a $22 million budget and supervise over 300 state and contract employees. I also went back to school, got a PhD in organizational leadership, and I have a master's degree in organizational leadership as well. I'm also the liaison with the legislature. I am running as a Democrat in this race, and I believe that while I do agree with John that there is some definite reasons for it being a nonpartisan position, I believe that the reason I'm running for sheriff is I really want to bring back some of the community actions and activities that we have been missing in the last few years. And I also want the sheriff's office to be ran more like a business where we use common business practices. We cannot continue functioning as we do any longer because these fiscal times are very difficult. And I just want to be able to support the public and bring some leadership to the department. That's where my experience lies, in leadership and experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Debbie, we'll go, the first question will be for you. The first question is 2 parts, and it's dealing with the budget. County government, along with governments at all levels, is facing cuts, some of them severe. Do you see any way for the Sheriff's Office to respond to shrinking county resources while maintaining public safety and reasonable levels of law enforcement? How would you do that? The second part is, how would you ensure that prevention and protection don't become a much lower priority than the work on crime?
Okay, the first part first. We absolutely have an issue with the budget, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. We won't know what our budget is final budget until the middle of December, but it looks like we're holding our own to some degree for this year, but then in the next 2 years are going to be very difficult. My plan for the department is I have looked at many areas that we need to reduce in management and have some ideas on how I want to do that. But what I really want to do is in the first 30 days of getting into office is to make sure that I look at a very strategic plan, look at a job task analysis with our employees, and be able to look at our Sheriff's Department from top to bottom, because in the last 24 years we haven't had a need to go back and really look at how we function as a Sheriff's Department. And so as part of that job task analysis would be to look at every position within the Sheriff's Department and determine which positions we can combine, which we can reduce, which ones we can eliminate, and certainly be looking at top management and where we can make some of those cuts. There's several that I have in mind that need to be included or reduced to different levels. And I believe that it's very important that we put that type of focus, because we need to make sure we have as many deputies on the road and in the jail as possible, because that's where our priorities are. That's what keeps you safe. As for prevention, it is very, very important to me. We have to make sure that as we move forward to keep our community safe, that we're also helping them learn ways to be involved in our programs within the Sheriff's Department, have volunteers involved, keep those programs going forward so that we don't lose the balance of who's the important people, and that's the citizens of Thurston County. They deserve to feel safe in their community.
Okay. John, again, the question is dealing with budget cuts and also maintaining prevention and protection roles of law enforcement.
Well, as a community outreach deputy, I've been fortunate enough to be with the Sheriff's Office and holding this program for 3.5 years. In establishing programs that work with the community and getting the community involved in the Sheriff's Office. From the time I started this campaign, I've said that I will reduce a chief management position, meaning that I'm taking a position that has been around for over 60 years and eliminating one of those positions. I've said that the entire time. I've also said that I'm eliminating an executive management position. Saying these two things, it right now will save us about $300,000 to get us more deputies. Also, maintaining community relations with our commissioners and talking to them about, if I save these monies, can I put more deputies on the road? And each one of them have said yes. Those are the promises that I've made only because I've already spoken to the commissioner about it and what we can do to make this community safe. Because I really think the Sheriff's Office has done a pretty damn good job in the last 24 years.
Okay, thank you. Okay, John, this next question will be for you first. What diversionary or additional diversionary programs would you recommend for misdemeanor crimes?
Misdemeanor crimes, obviously we're talking about driving offenses, malicious mischief, theft. Diversionary programs work because we're talking about cost effectiveness, because we don't want them to go to jail. Well, believe it or not, most of them don't really go to jail even if they commit these crimes. And the reason is because of the scale that we work on as far as in law enforcement. We have a scale of points that an individual is assigned per the crime that they commit. I believe that putting people in diversion is a great idea to save the taxpayers' monies. Now, me personally, I believe that if they're in diversion, that they ought to give back to the community that they've committed these crimes against. So I'm all for having these individuals go and work the streets of Thurston County and clean up, or be involved in community programs, nonprofit programs that benefit the citizens of Thurston County, not just themselves. And understanding that they can't go out and just commit these crimes against a person or against the citizens of Thurston County or against the state and think it's okay. So we need to get them to understand that just because they're going through diversion, that means they need to give back to the community, because we're not going to tolerate that. We're not going to accept that behavior, and they need to understand that. So having the diversion program is a great idea, as long as it benefits the citizens of Thurston County.
Okay, thank you. Debbie, what diversionary programs would you recommend for misdemeanor?
I'm very supportive of those types of programs, both for actually misdemeanor and felony programs, depending on what kind of treatment's provided along with it. When you make life-changing changes in people's lives that help them see another way of doing things, it prevents crime within of itself. Many times people get stuck in bad crimes and bad situations where they are doing things that they don't know how to get themselves out of. Well, I believe it's very, very important to be strong on crime, and believe me, I think that that's one of the most important things we can do. I also believe that it's important to have programs out there that help people get their feet on the right path again too. So I believe that diversionary programs are very important because it obviously helps prevent crime in the future many times, but it also saves money in the long run.
Okay, thank you. Debbie, what steps would you take to reduce juvenile crime, and what would you support as programs or activities with regard to prevention and early intervention with juveniles?
One of the things that being a DARE officer for many years, the law enforcement interaction with youth is a top priority of mine. And being involved in getting to kids when they're young and helping them have a relationship with law enforcement that they haven't had in the past is a great way to start that. But also programs like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and Boys and Girls Club, those kinds of programs, I think the Sheriff's Department needs to be very, very involved in, because reaching out to kids when they're young is a very important thing. I also think that there's a lot of programs through juvenile with the diversion, different kinds of things like that as well, that we need to be helping and working together as a team. Working with the prosecutor's office, working with the county commissioners, working together to find ways to help kids find ways to make good decisions, and also find out that there are pretty nasty consequences to making bad decisions. I think it's very important that we be tough on the crime that's happening, because the gangs are creeping back into our community. So if we can start reaching them at an early age before that happens, I believe that that is where we're going to be able to make a difference. But then when they do make the mistakes, we need to be there to make sure that they realize that they haven't done the right thing as well. And so I feel like it's very important to be strong on crime, even with juveniles as well. But if we can hit them early and get into programs with them to keep them out of trouble ahead of time, I'd be very, I feel very strong about getting our police officers back into the schools. We have some now, but I would like to see more of that as well.
Okay, thank you. John, dealing with juvenile crime, particularly early intervention, prevention.
What's really been great about the position that I hold right now is that I actually get to go into schools and talk to juveniles about making changes and showing them where I've come from in my career. Also being involved with the public schools and being able to meet with teachers, probation officers, and getting to know who the children are who do need our help, who do need assistance from not only law enforcement, but from the juvenile probation standpoint, and also from Department of Corrections, and also with the principals and the administrators there. And knowing that we need to focus on them and help them out and find out what are the reasons why they're where they're at. Also, I've been involved in giving gang instruction classes and teaching not only teachers and administrators, but also citizens about gangs and early detection. So being involved in the schools is something that I really pride myself in. And also being involved in the New Market Skills Center and providing information for criminal justice training.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've done misdemeanors and juvenile crime, so I guess our last question here, well, it's not the very last question, but let's turn to felony crime. What further steps would you take? We'll ask John first, if elected, to reduce felony crime in the county.
To reduce felony crime in the county is something that is easily said and hard to do. The reason is the economic times that we're having these days. We're seeing people who've never committed crimes before commit crimes to support families because they haven't worked. They haven't worked in over 16 months. So we're out there, as far as in law enforcement, doing what we can to deter crime. As a community outreach deputy, my involvement with the community is getting out into the community and talking to them about what we can do to make a difference in our community, educating them, getting them involved in other programs so that they can find out about work placement or maybe getting involved in school. But to deter felony crimes is huge, especially now that we're using the 3 strikes law. We're basing everything on point system. Well, a lot of the crimes that these individuals commit are low point crimes, so they're not really having to do the amount of time that they're scheduled to actually serve. For instance, if you take an assault second, well, that's 10 years plus jail for convicted of that. But right now, they're only being charged maybe 3 months. So we need to let people know that we're going to take a stand on crime, and we're going to be more, if you commit that crime, we're going to hold you accountable. Because once you're being held accountable for the crimes that you commit, we'll see less crime. The other thing is, obviously, we want to get more deputies on the road to deter people from even thinking about committing crime in the first place. So that's the #1 goal of mine, is getting more deputies on the road to deter people from even committing felony crimes, to misdemeanor crimes, to juvenile crimes. So that's my goal as a sheriff.
Okay, thank you. Debbie, how would you deal with felony crime, ways to reduce that?
Partnerships, most definitely. Looking at our sex offender registration, working with WASPIC to make sure that Washington Police Chiefs and Sheriffs Association, to make sure that the money's still coming forward through the departments to move forward our programs with that. Gang Task Force, working with other law enforcement agencies in the county to make sure that we move forward with making sure that we keep gangs out of our community. Working with the prosecutor's office to make sure that we're doing everything at the front end with, when we arrest somebody and the paperwork's done, that the prosecutors are able to move forward and prosecute those crimes. I'm talking to John Thunheim, who's running for Thurston County Prosecutor, many times about this, and we both believe that the best way to do this is to get through a partnership and to be working together as a team, and that means elected officials and appointed officials like police chiefs and other mayors, other people in the community, to make sure that we're really working towards this, because most felony crimes have a lot of impact in our society, and we need to make sure that we feel safe. And to do that, we have to work together, because fiscal times are difficult. They really are. And so to make an impact on felony crimes, we're going to have to be working as a team.
Okay, thank you. Debbie, we'll start with you here. Would you support combining all Thurston County law enforcement agencies? Why or why not?
All Thurston County law enforcement, so all police departments?
Right.
Is that what you mean? I wouldn't, and the reason I wouldn't support that is each place has its own vision and own culture and own beliefs on what they need to do. In Thurston County, with the Sheriff's Department, we have a lot of rural area, and as a result of that, we have a lot of needs of people that are different than if you live in the city. And probably the benefit of combining would we would have more people and more money coming in. But I feel like that we would lose some of that response to the people that need us out in the community. We have resident deputies that are in each one of our districts. They get to know the people that work there. They get to understand who they are and go to their events and their community things. And many of them live in the areas that they work. And my fear would be combining that, we would lose that personal touch. We would lose that contact that we have with the people in the community. And that's one of the amazing things about being part of a sheriff's office is that we're a little bit different. We handle many different programs and many different things. While I believe it's important to combine services, having many people from different agencies on the SWAT team and on the dive team and in the drug task force and those things, because I think sharing resources and working together is exactly what we should be doing. I think that we should keep the law enforcement entity separate.
Okay. John, what's your position on combining law enforcement agencies in the county?
I wish we had more time to talk about that, but I don't think we should. I think it's a great concept. However, most cities are not only run by a chief, but they also have a mayor and they have a city council. So you have 3 city councils, 3 mayors, and 3 chiefs, not including the small towns, which we have Tenino and Yelm. So if we committed all those together, all different communities have different visions and different goals. I think the vision of the Sheriff's Office is to serve and protect our community. And what a great resource we're able to provide to the citizens is our own individualities that we bring into law enforcement. And to be able to serve the citizens of Thurston County in the way that we get to bring, and that we get to bring the ideas that the citizens of Thurston County want. We get to bring those ideas to law enforcement, and we get to serve them with what they believe is the right thing, and not what other jurisdictions who aren't impacted. So Thurston County is a great community to live in, and I really enjoy the way the Sheriff's Office is today.
Okay. Now, this is our final question. John, we'll ask you first. If elected, what would be your top 3 challenges?
The first challenge is reorganizing the Sheriff's Office, because you're taking an organization that has ran the same for a long time. And when I say reduce and restructure management, means that I'm changing up the vision of the Sheriff's Office to where it meets the needs of the community in the times that we have today. Again, we're seeing times that we've never seen before. Only the times that we hear of, that our grandparents told us about in the 30s. So the first thing will be restructuring and, like I said before, reducing an executive management position, a chief position. As an elected sheriff, I get to pick 6 appointed positions. So now I'm reducing that to 5. So by having 5 means I'm saving money for the citizens. Also by eliminating executive management position, which is going to save me more money and put more deputies on the road. Those are the things that I look at as far. That's going to take me a good 6 months to do, is looking at the union contracts and seeing what we can do to restructure. Also, putting out, refocusing our resources into the community, restructuring the Sheriff's Office to better fit the needs of the community. It might mean putting more deputies into the schools. The last thing is the hugest problem that we're going to have facing is the Accountability and Restitution Center. It was built based on a concept in 2005. It now lies vacant. It'll cost the citizens of Thurston County $425,000 to be vacant until we can get the staffing for it. And it will increase $25,000 each year. So we need to find the resources to fill the jail, the new Accountability Restitution Center, and that will be my greatest challenge.
Okay. Debbie, your top 3 challenges.
Very, very similar. Okay. So in my minute, reorganization is going to be obviously top priority. I have a different plan of how to do that. Much is going to be going in and really looking from top to bottom, talking to the people that are doing the jobs, and finding out how we can make changes that are going to sustain ourselves, not through this budget only, but for the next several years. Because in the past, we've made cuts in positions. Our last sheriff got rid of positions, and we lost those positions, and we lost 28 more positions in the next 4 years. And so we can't continue losing positions like that. We have got to look at how we can make changes that are life changes for many, many years. Second will be absolutely with the ARC. I'm so excited that the first phase of that build of our new jail was built, and that is an amazing thing. But we're going to have to look at how now we can put people in that jail and be using it, and how we can do that and not put our corrections officers or our inmates in risk. And right now, that's where we're at. We can't do that without putting them at risk. And thirdly is building relationships, building those relationships back up with our county commissioners and other elected officials. Those are going to keep us pretty challenged for the first year.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We've been meeting with John Snaza and Debbie Mealy, running for sheriff for Thurston County. Thank you for being with us in this debate sponsored by the League of Women Voters and TCTV. I want to thank TCTV for working with us on these candidate forums. Remember to vote. Your vote is important. Thank you for being with us.